Last summer, my electricity bill hit over $480 in just 1 month. And a big part of that? The air conditioner running almost non-stop. I live in a hot climate, and like a lot of people, I just accepted it as normal. You pay more in the summer. That's how it is. But sitting in my backyard the whole time was something I had completely ignored. An old swimming pool. It wasn't even usable anymore. The liner was cracked, the water was green, and I was seriously thinking about just filling it in because it felt like nothing but a waste of space and money. Then one day, while looking out at the backyard, a thought suddenly hit me. Instead of continuing to see that old pool as a useless burden, I started wondering, what if it could actually become part of the solution? What if that abandoned hole in the ground could help reduce my cooling costs, which were getting heavier every summer? I had heard about underground thermal batteries before, systems that use the stable temperature of the ground and water to cool a house without needing much electricity. Most of the videos I saw, though, were about people digging giant new holes and spending thousands of dollars to build them from scratch. I didn't want to do that. I already had a big hole in my backyard. It just happened to be full of dirty water and bad memories. So I asked myself a simple question. Could I turn this abandoned pool into a working thermal battery and make it run with zero electricity after it was built? That question sent me down a rabbit hole. I spent weeks researching how passive thermosiphon systems work, how thermal mass can store coolth, and whether it was even possible to repurpose something that was never designed for this. I'll be honest, I was skeptical at first. It sounded almost too good to be true. But the more I learned, the more I realized this might actually be possible. And if it worked, it could mean cooling my house in the summer without adding anything to my electricity bill. Of course, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But here's what I didn't expect when I finally decided to try it. So I decided to go for it. I was going to turn that old abandoned pool into a zero electricity thermal battery using a passive thermosiphon system. I spent about 2 weeks researching and planning the design. The basic idea was to use the large volume of water in the pool as thermal mass. Cool water at the bottom would absorb heat from the air inside the house through a series of pipes, and the slightly warmer water would naturally rise, creating a slow circulation without any pumps. I started by draining most of the dirty water and cleaning out the pool as best as I could. Then came the insulation stage. I used 2-inch thick rigid foam boards and placed them vertically around the inside walls of the pool. On the surface, I laid down a thick layer of the same foam and covered it with a heavy-duty tarp to reduce heat gain from the sun and outside air. I tried to seal the gaps between the boards with expanding foam, but I'll admit it wasn't perfect. For the heat exchange part, I decided to run air directly through the water instead of using a water-to-air heat exchanger, because I wanted to keep everything as simple and low-cost as possible. I used 6-inch diameter flexible insulated ducting. I installed one supply duct that went from the house down into the deeper part of the pool, and a return duct that came back up from the upper section of the water. The height difference between the supply and return points was about 5 feet, which I hoped would be enough to create a natural thermosiphon effect. I also added a simple manifold at the bottom so the cool air could spread out across a wider area underwater. I sealed all the joints in the ductwork as best as I could using aluminum tape and zip ties. When everything was connected, I was actually pretty optimistic. The system looked solid. I had good insulation, decent pipe diameter, and what I thought was enough height difference for passive airflow. But when I finally tested it, the results were disappointing. I turned on a small inline fan temporarily just to push air through the system for testing. The air coming back into the house was only about 2 to 3 degrees cooler than the room temperature, almost nothing. Even after running it for several hours, the water temperature at the bottom of the pool barely dropped, and there was almost no natural circulation happening. I spent the next few days trying to figure out what went wrong. I checked the insulation again and realized heat was still leaking in from the top and through small gaps I hadn't sealed properly. But the bigger issue was something more fundamental. The temperature difference between the water and the air just wasn't large enough to drive a strong thermosiphon effect with the pipe size and height difference I had chosen. The air simply wasn't moving on its own the way I expected. That's when it really sank in. I had underestimated how precise you need to be with a passive system like this. I thought I had done everything right, but the temperature inside the house barely moved. After the first failure, I felt pretty defeated. I had put in time, effort, and some money, and the system barely worked. For a moment, I thought about giving up. But instead, I decided to go back to the basics and really understand how a passive thermosiphon system is supposed to work. I spent several days rereading technical explanations and watching more detailed videos. Slowly, I started to understand where I had gone wrong. The first thing I fixed was the insulation. I realized that even small gaps were letting in too much heat. This time, I was much more careful. I used thicker rigid foam boards and made sure to overlap the edges. I also added a layer of reflective radiant barrier on top of the foam to reduce heat gain from sunlight. Then I sealed every single gap and joint with expanding foam and heavy-duty tape. The goal was to make the pool as close to a sealed thermal container as possible. The second, and more important fix, was redesigning the airflow system. I learned that for a thermosiphon to work properly, you need enough temperature difference and enough height difference to create natural convection. My original setup didn't have enough of either, so I made two big changes. First, I increased the height difference between the supply and return ducts to about 7 feet by adjusting where the pipes entered and exited the pool. Second, I used larger 8-inch diameter ducts instead of 6-inch to reduce airflow resistance. I also made sure the supply duct went deeper into the coolest part of the water, while the return duct pulled air from higher up. I also added a simple but important detail. I sloped the duct slightly to help with natural airflow direction. After everything was reinstalled, I spent extra time sealing all the joints again to prevent any air leaks. When I turned the system on this time, I didn't use the fan at all. I wanted to test if it could work purely on passive thermosiphon. At first, the airflow was very slow, but after a few hours, I could feel a noticeable difference. Cool air was finally coming out of the vents inside the house. It wasn't dramatic yet, but it was clearly working, something I hadn't achieved in the first attempt. The water at the bottom of the pool was staying cooler, and there was actual circulation happening without any mechanical help. That moment gave me hope again. I realized that the system could work, but only if the design and installation were done correctly. After making those changes, I let the system run for a full week without touching anything. I wanted to see how it would perform on its own. The results were much better than I expected. On hot days, the air coming out of the vents was consistently 6 to 8 degrees cooler than the room temperature. It wasn't as cold as an air conditioner, but it was enough to make the house feel noticeably more comfortable. What surprised me the most was that the system kept working even on days when the outside temperature went above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. I installed a couple of simple temperature sensors to track the data. The water at the bottom of the pool stayed around 68-72 degrees Fahrenheit, even when the air outside was much hotter. Because the pool was well insulated, the cool water didn't warm up quickly. This stable, cool temperature was what allowed the passive thermosiphon to keep working day after day without any electricity. The best part? After the initial build, the system runs completely on its own. There are no pumps, no fans, and no electricity being used for cooling. Once the air starts moving, it keeps circulating naturally, as long as there's a temperature difference between the water and the air inside the house. Of course, it's not perfect. On extremely hot days, the cooling effect is milder than a regular air conditioner. But for most of the summer, it has significantly reduced how often I need to turn on the AC. I've also noticed that the house stays cooler for longer into the evening. Looking back on the whole journey, I'm really glad I didn't fill in that pool. What started as a frustrating project full of mistakes taught me something important. Sometimes the best solutions are already sitting right in front of us. We just have to be willing to see them from a different perspective. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can follow along with more DIY energy projects. I'll see you in the next one.